So, what happens to you after you die? For pretty much all of human history, that was a question for philosophers, for priests, for poets. But today, it's a question for software engineers. You know, every single photo you post, every message you send, every random thought you share online, it's all building something. It's building a digital ghost, a version of you that just maybe might outlive your body. All right, let's dive into this totally fascinating and, yeah, kind of unsettling world of our digital afterlife. And if you're thinking this is awesome, far-off science fiction future, it's not. It's already happening. The line between our physical selves and our digital selves is blurring more every day. I mean, look at this. A QR code literally etched into a granite gravestone. It's a permanent, physical marker that with just a quick scan of your phone connects you directly to the online life of the person who's passed away. Their photos, their stories, their social media. The physical and the virtual aren't two separate worlds anymore. They are completely and totally tangled up.
And this quote from the cultural theorist Elida Asman just hits the nail on the head. For centuries, our memory of someone was tied to a physical place, right? A grave, a monument, their old house. But that's just not how it works anymore. Our ways of remembering are floating free, delocalized, living in the digital cloud. And this isn't just about storing old memories. It's about creating a whole new kind of presence after someone is gone.
So for this first part, let's just focus on the digital presences we are already leaving behind. You know, the ghosts that are haunting our servers as we speak. A really helpful way to wrap your head around this is an idea from sociologists about the two bodies of the dead. The first body is the one you'd expect, the corpse. It's physical. In most Western cultures, it's hidden away pretty quickly, it decays, and it becomes less and less a part of how we remember. But now, a second body has shown up and taken its place, a body of memories. And this body is totally different. It's digital, it's super visible, it's carefully curated by us while we're alive and by our family after we're gone. And the most important part? It's built to last. It's that Facebook profile that turns into a memorial page or the Instagram feed that becomes a timeless photo album. This second body, it doesn't fade away. It sticks around. And, well, you know how it goes. Wherever there's a deep-seated human need, like our need to remember and be remembered, a market is going to pop up. And that's exactly what's happened. A whole industry has been created around this persistent second body of memories. People are calling it memory as a service, and it's all about commercializing our desire to keep the dead present in our lives. And if you start looking into these services, you see a couple of different paths they're taking. On the one hand, you've got apps like Hereafter. The idea is you record stories about your life, and then after you're gone, your family can ask an app questions and hear your voice telling them about your life. It's like an interactive oral history. Then you've got the really ambitious stuff, like Eater 9, which literally promises cyber eternity. They create a digital twin of you, an AI version that can keep interacting, posting on social media, even hanging out in the metaverse. But here's the key. The business model for all of this is the data economy. It all runs on the massive amounts of personal data we create. To work, these things need our constant input, our tracked behaviors, our online profiles. We're essentially turning our lives into the raw material for our own afterlives. Okay, but we have to be super clear about something here. These digital twins, these avatars, they aren't actually you, not really. They're what researchers call a staged identity. I mean, just think about your own Instagram or Facebook profile. You're picking the best photos, right? You're sharing the wins, the fun moments, and you're leaving out the boring, mundane, or embarrassing stuff. It's a performance, and a digital afterlife service does the exact same thing. It creates an idealized, curated version of a person, the person they wanted to be remembered as, which isn't always the same as the person they actually were. So everything we've talked about so far is about preserving the memory of a person. It's fascinating, for sure, but it's still just an echo. So what happens when the goal becomes way, way bigger than that? And this is where we take a huge speculative leap from preserving memory to trying to preserve consciousness itself. This is the idea of mind uploading. We're leaving the here and now behind and jumping straight into the really mind-bending stuff. Okay, so what in the world is mind uploading? Well, the more technical name is whole brain emulation. The basic idea is to scan a biological brain in such incredible, painstaking detail that you can create a perfect software model of it. A model that is so accurate that when you run it on a super powerful computer, it will behave, think, and, this is the big one, feel in the exact same way the original person did. In theory, it wouldn't just be like a conscious mind, it would be one. To really appreciate how ridiculously difficult this would be, let's just start with the hardware we're trying to copy, the human brain. It's not just about the brain cells, the neurons. It's about the connections between them, the synapses. And there are an estimated 100 trillion of them inside your skull. 100 trillion. Every single one is a tiny, complex biological computer. And to do a true emulation, you'd have to perfectly map every last one.
So what would it take to actually store a map of all those connections? Well, the current estimates are somewhere around 20,000 terabytes of data. That's 20 petabytes. To put that into perspective for you, if you took all the academic research libraries in the entire United States, all their books and journals, that's about 2 petabytes. So we're talking about needing the storage space of 10 of those massive library systems, just for one person's brain map.
Now, as much as this sounds like pure science fiction, the idea's been kicking around for a while. A computer scientist named Hans Moravec was writing about it way back in 1979. And we've made some tiny steps, like the Blue Brain project that managed to simulate a small chunk of a rat's brain back in 2009. And then, of course, you have the famous, or maybe infamous, prediction from futurist Ray Kurzweil that we'll be able to do this by the year 2045. Now, whether that's ridiculously optimistic or not, the general direction is pretty clear. But let's just imagine for a second that we solve all of those insane technical challenges. We figure it all out. That's when we slam headfirst into a philosophical wall that's been standing for centuries, the consciousness question. So, let's say we do it. We scan your brain, we turn it on inside a server. Is that digital mind running on the computer a true continuation of you, of your consciousness? Or is it just an incredibly perfect copy? A brand new being that wakes up with all of your memories, thinking it's you, while your original stream of consciousness just stops? And this leads to an even deeper and frankly much creepier question. Is that uploaded mind even truly conscious at all? Or is it what philosophers call a philosophical zombie? A perfect simulation that acts conscious, that tells you it feels love and pain and joy, but on the inside, there's just nothing. No lights on. No real experience, just an incredibly sophisticated algorithm pretending to be a person. And what's so amazing is that these aren't new problems that we just invented for sci-fi movies. The Scottish philosopher Thomas Reid was thinking about this exact paradox of identity way back in 1775. He was basically asking, hey, if you can make copies of me for my brain, which one is the real me? Are they all me? It is a profoundly difficult question that we still have no good answer for. In the modern debate, things have kind of settled into two major camps. On one side, you have what's called the copy and die view, championed by philosophers like Susan Schneider. She argues that you can't move consciousness, you can only copy it. So the process would create a perfect replica, but the original you, your actual stream of awareness, would just end. You die. Then on the other side, you have the branching identity view. This idea suggests that consciousness isn't just one single straight line. It can branch, and each copy would be an equally authentic continuation of the original you. In this view, you do survive the upload. In fact, you could survive as a bunch of different versions of yourself all at the same time. Okay, so let's pull back from the mind-bending philosophy for a minute and bring this back down to earth. Because whether we're talking about simple memory chatbots or full-on mind uploads, this technology is going to reshape our society and our whole idea of identity. And that brings us to the question of power. On the one hand, the promise here is this kind of democratization of memory. Think about it. In the past, only kings and generals got statues and biographies. Now, anybody could potentially create a digital version of themselves, giving a postmortem voice to people who would have otherwise just been forgotten. But, and this is a huge but, there's a real peril here. For one, digital immortality is not going to be free. It's going to create a new digital divide, a new kind of inequality between those who can afford to be remembered forever and those who can't. It also really depends on how much data you've created. Someone who lived a quiet, offline life would be a lot harder to recreate than a social media influencer. And maybe most importantly, this whole thing makes us dependent on private tech companies. Their algorithms will decide which memories get saved, whose stories get told, and which version of history is preserved. They become the ultimate editors of our past. So, at the end of the day, it really comes down to this. All of us, right now, are creating the source code for our own digital ghosts. Every click, every post, every photo we share. And as these digital afterlives get more and more sophisticated, moving from just a static profile to a fully interactive avatar, and maybe beyond, we have to ask ourselves a really fundamental question. Who are we trusting to write our final story? Is it us? Or is it the companies that own the platforms where we live out our digital lives? That is definitely something worth remembering.